Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Top 5 video. My name is Jacob Mayfield.
And my name is Rothwell, and today we're ranking the top 5 animals domesticated by Native Americans over the course of human history.
Number 5. Guinea pigs. It might be hard for one to picture a non-domesticated guinea pig, as the history of these furry little rodents' relationship with humans stretches all the way back to 5,000 years ago. Cavia porcellus originated in the central Andes and has been deemed useful enough to be domesticated by Native Americans in the Andes region. Their uses have varied throughout history, ranging from a source of food to a medicinal dowsing rod employed by healers known as curandera to diagnose various diseases such as arthritis, jaundice, and rheumatism. Archaeology and scientific research suggest that guinea pigs might have actually made the first move in the domestication process, hanging out around Native American villages in order to enjoy the leftover scraps of food. In fact, their eating habits are likely halfway to blame for the misnomer pig being attached to them later on. They are more than willing to scavenge for discarded greens and other vegetables. Other reasons that domestication might have gone so smoothly include the guinea pig's crepuscular nature, or its aversion to both direct sunshine and absolute darkness. The indoor lighting in Native American houses would have lent itself to a more apt environment for these little rodents to thrive. The history of guinea pigs is less firmly understood than many other domesticated animals. Whether it is a distinct lack of zoomorphic representations through pottery and jewelry, or the relatively small area in which they were originally known and bred. However, after colonization began to take firm root in South America, the guinea pig quickly became a popular commodity overseas, and was adopted by common folk and English royalty alike. There are still a few examples of native cultures honoring their beloved squeaky toys, such as the Peruvian Mohican tribe, creating ceramic statues and vessels in their image.
Number 4. Turkeys. Around 2,000 years ago, the turkey was domesticated by the
Pueblo
people in what is now Colorado. The Rio Grande turkey specifically made its debut in archaeological evidence around the beginning of the current era. Similarly to the guinea pig, the Rio Grande turkey was tamed for consumption purposes. They existed in small numbers in Native American captivity in the center of what would become the United States. The wild turkey is notable as the only instance of an animal domestication north of Mexico. By around 1000 AD, nearly 75% of the fossilized animal remains that we can find in Pueblo villages are turkey, and of a specific lineage, too. There exists some debate about whether early turkeys were kept in pens or allowed to freely graze, but their meat was highly desirable and efficient to raise for the Native Americans in the Midwest. These Rio Grande turkeys, along with other, less numerous species of turkeys, began to spread out from the Pueblo people's singular control and ownership by around the 16th century, when Spanish colonizing efforts brought turkeys back to Europe, where they were found just as good to eat and exotic enough to captivate the interest of royalty. Wild turkeys at large are omnivorous, eating whatever plants or insects they can get their hands on. A surprising amount of research has been conducted on their genetic diversity while in domestication by various Native American populations, and most of what we have learned points to a small group of turkeys being held captive for feeding purposes later, and then animal husbandry being performed in order to keep that population growing. This breeding was, of course, supplemented by continual capture of new turkeys from the wild, but we can still see today many of the genetic markers that match the fossils of turkeys found in the remains of old Pueblo villages. How cool is that?
Number 3. Llamas and alpacas. Next up on the list we have llamas and alpacas. These fluffy camelids are just perfect for producing high quantities of fleece for clothing and other fabric uses. These are just the two domesticated camelid species present in Central and South America. There still exist two more undomesticated species of camelids, the guanaco and the vicuña. To this day, the direct descendants and history of llamas and alpacas is uncertain, but scientists believe that llamas were likely domesticated from guanacos and alpacas were either derived from vicuña alone or a hybridization of the vicuña and llamas. Whatever their origins, these shaggy beasts first came under South American ownership around 6,000 years ago. They served a couple of purposes, as a source of fleece, as previously mentioned, and also as beasts of lighter burden, able to carry up to 75 pounds with relative ease. Located primarily in the Puna region of the Peruvian Andes, these beasts of burden were first recognized as huntable due to their tasty meat and relative prevalence. Along with their fleece, the llama's hides and dung were also used for various purposes. According to Spanish records, the Inca Empire held specific castes, and one of these castes was devoted specifically to the raising and breeding of these furry friends. The alpaca is a considerably smaller version of the llama, which means they were likely never used for their ability to transport and carry items, but their fleece's fiber has seen widespread use in the production of highly valued lightweight jackets and blankets.
Number 2. Dogs. Coming in at number 2, we have man's best friend, dogs. Their ancestors, originating from East Asia, our lovable canine compatriots, were brought over to the New World when several peoples migrated to the Americas when land passage was still possible. According to recent studies, it is hypothesized that rather than man choosing canines, canines chose man based on the rather hostile nature of wolves. Based on several anthropological signs, dogs of very different sizes were used by the Native Americans. Some bones found were as small and light as terriers, while others were found to be the size of a modern Dalmatian. Regardless of size, several of the bones were shown to be buried with human bones of various sizes, indicating that just like today, dogs had a very special place in the hearts of the owners and their families.
Before we move on to our number 1, let's take a moment to look at some honorable mentions that didn't quite make the top 5 list. The Muscovy duck is the largest duck in North America. While other ducks quack, Muscovy ducks hiss. These massive mallards have been working in conjunction with the Mochica culture in southern Peru since around 50 CE, and have been found up into coastal Ecuador in sites dated to about 80 CE. Regardless of their long and fruitful relations with Native American people, we felt that these ducks simply didn't deserve the top 5 spots on this list because they haven't been domesticated for as long and they're not quite as cool.
Number 1. Horses.
Horses were by far the most groundbreaking domesticated animal introduced into Native American societies. Their ability to carry and transport heavy loads, their speed of travel, and stamina over long distances was truly unmatched by any other animal the Native Americans were able to domesticate. Despite not originating from the Americas, horses were brought over from Spain when the Spanish began colonizing several parts of the Americas, and South America specifically. Due to the relative flatness of North America when compared to South America, equestrian Native American societies developed much more in North America. The plains of America were especially capable of supporting horses due to their long, flat fields of fresh grass. Despite the heat, horses were able to adapt to North America's weather, making them even more capable companions. Horses were acquired by trading with or stealing from Mexicans or Texans throughout their colonial times and more. When the U.S. border kept pushing into Native American hunting grounds like the Comanches, settlers in the new lands would find it more and more likely to have their horses stolen. There are several instances in Texas of this occurring, with anecdotes from Comanche captees describing the Comanche tactics of stealing the horses, riding them for as far as they could carry them, killing them and eating them when they were too tired, and then riding a different horse and continuing back to camp. Horses were such a commodity that they were willing to risk conflict with white settlers in order to increase the horses' numbers. Horses would grow to be so impactful that their introduction would directly change Native American status, power, economy, and so much more for as long as they were able to roam freely in North America. The Comanche took full advantage of the horse's prowess and made a trade empire, drawing other natives closer to them in order to trade and flourish. The discovery of horses for the Native Americans was like the Industrial Revolution and the California Gold Rush combined. Despite all of these positive effects, horse domestication also had very negative effects on the Native Americans. Because horses were viewed as such an important animal, they were given the rights to graze throughout the Midwest. However, the ecology wasn't built for this, and the horses overgrazed to the point of causing the grass normally eaten by bison to disappear too rapidly. This caused the bison's numbers to fall, and without their number one food source, Comanches and other tribes would start to struggle. This would get much worse with American expansion and hunting of the bison, Americans essentially wiping out all of said bison. This led to the Comanches' downfall. A domesticated animal was so revolutionary and held such a high value that several native tribes sacrificed several resources and ways of living for them that helped cement their downfall.